Egyptian parliament considering regulating social media access for minors. The Egyptian parliament is following recent global trends by considering methods of regulating social media usage by young teenagers. While they claim that they're attempting to protect the safety of Egypt's younger citizens, it raises questions regarding individual freedoms, parental responsibility, privacy, and equity. Human Rights Watch, Al Jazeera, and other platforms have repeatedly called attention to the years ongoing trend of the Egyptian government censoring social media platforms, preventing the flow of information, imprisoning and torturing journalists, and arresting individuals for sharing government critical thoughts online. And this raises a few questions. Should it be up to the government to decide if and when someone can access the internet? What parts of the internet will remain free? How much of what the government says lines up with what they actually intend to do? How will these restrictions be enforced? In the present, websites with enforced age restrictions typically require some form of identity verification, and this verification process is flawed, especially when it comes to the security of information, privacy, accuracy, and efficiency. These flaws lead to the intended demographic being excluded from online spaces that they should have been allowed into, while allowing those meant to be excluded to find loopholes to access forbidden spaces. For those the system does accurately identify, it is common for their information to be stolen or misused, as the information must be uploaded and transferred through third-party groups in order for verification to be completed. This insecure retainment of personal information also opens the door for Egyptian government to more easily identify who's posting what and limit the possibilities for private online communication further. This is dangerous because, as mentioned before, the Egyptian government has a recent history of wrongfully punishing those who speak or act against the current regime in online spaces. Further, the current methods of verification disproportionately affect marginalized groups. Current programs for facial identification are both easily bypassed with loopholes and largely inaccurate, especially for women and people of color. In addition to facial identification, many websites require official government documentation that matches their face and perceived age. This is often inaccessible to people who may be displaced and intending to use online spaces to seek support and assistance. People with lower incomes without the ability to take time off work and update their identification, or people who are transgender and have an appearance that does not match the information on their original ID. So this is my diagram for it. We can see here in the center, there is a representation of internet access being limited for people under the age of 18 in Egypt. The people it directly affects the most are people aged under 18. Those parents who are potentially being denied the right to parent and make decisions based on the safety and welfare of their child and what their child needs on an individual basis. We have internet users in general here as well, because anybody who uses the internet could be affected by this age verification requirement, depending on how it is enforced. The people in charge of making the decision of how this plays out are the Egyptian parliament. And I have the things that are most immediately affected are, minor safety, because that's what they're planning on doing. That's what they're intending on doing. It's unsure if their intended effect would be found with this method of uh, regulation. And then also censorship, which comes hand in hand with access to information, right? They want only certain people to have access to certain information, and they only want certain people to be able to share this information with the world. Personal freedom, the ability to just do as you please as long as you are not harming somebody else. Then government control, again, the government making decisions rather than allowing those decisions to fall onto the parents of the children that they are so concerned about. When we have limited communication, there's a lot of people who use social media platforms as their primary form of communication, especially if they can't afford um, other types of like phone bills, right? Texting, all of that costs money, and it's usually free to message through a social media platform. Um, Enforcement via identity verification goes hand in hand with that data collection, right? Because they have to collect data in order to verify your identity online. Um, Whether or not they delete that data afterwards, you kind of just have to trust them, which goes hand in hand again with surveillance and infringement of privacy. We don't know exactly who is accessing that information after we put it up there on the website, or after it changes hands through all of those middlemen, all those third parties, which then leads to, as we know before, the unjust imprisonment of civilians, of people who are not necessarily doing anything actually wrong per se, but maybe said something or provided information to somebody that the Egyptian government didn't want to have happen. Um, and then we have, of course, this lies right in there with the National Association of Social Work's right to self-determination. It is our responsibility as social workers to ensure that everyone that we care for, which largely ends up being everyone around us, has the right to make decisions for themselves, whether it be something that we think is smart or not, as long as they are not causing harm to themselves or others. And sometimes, even if they are causing a little bit of harm to themselves, there's a range of what we should be able to control versus what other people should be able to control about their own lives. And this, again, is directly connected to the International Federation of Social Work's ideas of challenging discrimination and institutional oppression. Um, these are, this is information that they don't want younger people to have access to. Is it that they don't want younger people to have access to it, or is it that they want to prevent people from having access to things in general? Or do they just not care, right? Because regardless of their intentions, what the output of their actions ends up being still matters. Which again, challenging and unjust policies and practices. Whether their intentions are good and they want to protect minors, it's not really a just policy, a just practice if it is causing more harm than good, because we don't know for sure that their age verification will somehow be more successful than other countries' attempts, than other individual companies' attempts to protect minors, because we have seen it in the news time and time again, at least in recent years, that it has not been successful in protecting anyone, and all it has done is created a hassle and prevented certain people from interacting online, whether it be the people that they actually wanted to block out of those communities or not.